Welcome, everybody. This is Kate Archibald, your host of the Go Wellness webinars, and I would like to introduce to you the speaker of the day, which is usually the speaker of always, world-renowned functional medicine practitioner Reagan Archibald. Uh, yeah, Reagan. Today we're gonna be talking about um, what. uh, I'll let you introduce the topic, actually.
Okay, yeah, this is a brand new topic. So we're getting ready for Einstein's Medicine coming up. That's our next session, our next agenda in LA. So welcome everybody. Honored to have you here. Today we're going to be talking about why mindset and commitment is going to be key for you to building a successful practice and helping more people. So you're going to learn a little bit about my story, and then I'm also going to show you how to think like Einstein because arguably, he was transformative in his day and in our day even, and we still haven't caught up to his understanding and his knowledge. But I'm going to show you why learning and never stopping is the key to growing a very successful practice, but also for growing a very happy and fulfilling life. So let's jump in and welcome everybody. If you have questions, one thing I'd like to do at the beginning here is, tell us, let me know if you can put yourself, put in the chat box or the questions, um, put in there what your questions are, and then what Cade will do is he'll stop me as I go through this. But um, we just came off a very successful boot camp. It was our first ever level one boot camp in Salt Lake City, Utah. And for those of you who missed it, you missed out on an extraordinary experience. We had Dr. Ferraria from East West Health presenting, Spencer Eames from East West Health, he was presenting on MTHFR, COMT. Ryan Killarney, one of our acupuncturists at East West, he did a fantastic presentation on gut health and dysbiosis and fecal matter in your beard, for those of you who saw that. But we had this incredible
I
energy
I
that
think I missed that part.
did you miss
I
that? Yeah.
I was on the staff side. That I gotta watch
Oh
that
yeah.
recording. I'm working on all the
Yeah, you got to watch the videos. We've got that on there for all of our clients. For those of you who are part of our healthcare entrepreneur program, you'll get at it should be uploaded on Kajabi. How soon do you think, Cade? Next couple weeks, or what are you looking
yeah.
at?
I got about half the footage in file formats where I can start uploading. So yeah, I think at least about a week. Hey, we have a question or a hand raised from Eric Ennewold. Eric, I'm gonna unmute you.
Hey, Eric, go ahead. Okay,
Are
Eric,
are
you
you
there?
still on mute? I'll lower your hand. Maybe it was an accident.
Okay, cool. Yeah, but the boot camp, Kate, what do you think was the biggest thing that people missed out on who did not attend?
Yeah, I think the biggest things was practical application, and some of the action items. Being able to put, because a lot of stuff that functional medicine is, or you go to those conferences, and a lot of it is theory based, or it's educational, but the real question is, okay, how can I actually help my patient with something like this? And so we had classes on how to develop your curriculum. We had some marketing classes, and then I wasn't involved in a lot of the functional medicine training side for the practitioners, but from what I heard, it was pretty outstanding stuff from actual protocols with gut dysbiosis, helping with anemia, hormone related issues. Just a lot of very insightful stuff from each of the practitioners. And then the MTHFR genetic stuff was awesome. Herbal injections,
Yeah.
that was probably my favorite because I gotta watch that quite a bit.
Yeah, the herbal injections was fun. Everybody got injected with different herbal substances. I did it on my knee this morning, and I did it on my wrist. I did it on my wife's wrist. So, yeah, I thought it was just a great event. And then we had structural alignment acupuncture level one that took place on Friday. And I was so impressed. We sold that event out, but I was so impressed by all the people who attended. Just the rapidness of implementation and learning was pretty amazing. So, for those of you who are wondering, our next event is coming up October 15th and 16th, and it's going to be in LA, Marina Del Rey. So get registered for that as soon as possible. It's going to knock your socks off. Today's a little intro to the overall concept. So let's jump
I,
into the training. Oh, go ahead.
hey, Eric Enowald, your hand is raised. I unmuted you. Do you have a question for us? You might be on mute yourself. All right. He just likes to keep his hand up. Thanks, Eric.
Okay. Yeah, Eric, not a problem. There's acupuncture for that. Okay, let's jump into this. So let's talk. I've been reading a couple books on Einstein. I'm sure some of you have as well. And one of the biggest things that you want to do is you want to think differently if you're going to get yourself to the next level. So the very first thing in thinking differently is, let's say that you want to start implementing a marketing program into your office, and you've always thought, well, marketing's not for me. I can grow by word of mouth, and marketing's dirty. Whatever your thought process is around it, think of the thought that is limiting your growth. And that thought may also be, and I find myself doing this all the time, is scarcity. I want to market, but that costs a lot of money. And what if people don't actually respond to my marketing? And then I get all worried about spending money on marketing when I look over the years, I just started spending money on marketing only about 5 or 6 years ago. No, actually, yeah, 5 years ago is all. And so I practiced the first 7 years of my career with no marketing. I got busy, but I didn't realize I couldn't grow a business that way. It was a personality-based business. That means it was up to me. If I was there, then the business ran. If I wasn't there, everything shut down. And so I got to the point where I started marketing finally. I learned how to build a business. And I found that for every dollar I spent on marketing, I would get $10 in return. And I don't know about you, but I've never seen a stock that would do as good as marketing does. So, marketing is one area that you've got to think bigger in. The other area that you've got to think bigger is thinking about the services that you're offering. Because if you're not offering a multitude of services, then you're going to get stuck in that same trap of where you are. So commit to learning and thinking differently about marketing, commit to offering more services. And then the final thing is thinking about creating a lifestyle that you desire. Think about creating a life that you love. Think about disrupting healthcare in America, because right now I think we could be doing a little better in our country, especially with the resources we have, the amount of people who are looking for natural medicine. I mean, it's bigger than ever. So first thing you got to commit to. So that kind of gives you an overview, but let's dive in. But commit to making your future better than your past by learning new skills. And I don't know about your past, but a lot of us, we can go through and we repeat the same experience 30 times in our life, and then we'll say, I've got 30 years experience. I've been practicing acupuncture, I've been practicing functional medicine, I've been a chiropractor, naturopathic doctor for 30 years. And people pat themselves on the back. And then if you look at what they were practicing 10 years ago, and it's the same thing that they're practicing today or 20 years ago. Now there's certain skills that are timeless. Your skills of intuition, your skills of mastering a particular part of the medicine, but I look at that and I say, well, you had 30 years of experience, but you did not have 30 years of learning. So there's a big difference. When you have 30 years of learning, that's where you're going to have new insights and new revelations about how you can better help people, because medicine is not stopping. And a lot of us stop. We get out of school and we think we are the cat's meow, and we've got our skills, and that's all we need. So I'm going to go through my process just so that you can go through yours yourself. But as we're doing this, what you're going to do is you're going to learn new skills. So this is a three-step process that you never want to quit. You learn new skills, you implement those new skills, and then you repeat the process. So it seems simple, but this is the best way that you can grow. Learn new skills, implement, repeat the process. Learn new skills, implement, repeat the process. So this will help you think bigger, think better, think bolder, and then you got to think beyond your brain, your amygdala, because what does the amygdala do for us? Well, that's your where you process fear, you process security, protective, because in the entrepreneurial world, you're never guaranteed a paycheck until you first add value. And so the amygdala is what's going to tell you, go for security, keep doing things the same. And if you keep doing them the same, you're going to grow. But that's completely wrong, because you'll get to a certain level, and if you don't start learning, then you're going to shrink. So the only thing you have to do is learn more skills, which adds more value, and then you'll get a paycheck. So it always comes second. And that's why when you chase after money, you are chasing after money. It's an endless process. It's never fun. It doesn't work. So what you have to chase after is your passion. What can you offer that adds more value to the people in your community? All right, so let's learn from past experiences. The biggest thing I want you to do right now is take out a piece of paper, and yes, I'm serious, take out a piece of paper, or you can, okay, you can put it on your smartphone. That's what I would do, is put it on my notes in my smartphone, and write down all of the successful things that you did to get yourself to the place you are now. What did you have to overcome? What were the barriers? I mean, you had to go through school, lots of training. I know for a lot of us, the barriers that we confronted were huge. And for those of you who may have thought like I did, once you get out of school and you hang up your shingle, you've got your clinic started, then life gets easier and you can stop learning. And that is the absolute opposite thing that we want to do. And I see far too many practitioners, they do that, and then they reach out to me after, they have mild to moderate success their first year, and they think, wow, I did pretty good, I'm paying my bills. But then they get burned out, or their practice actually starts slumping because they quit learning. And they focused on what they're good at, which is great. You have to master those things, but you got to learn, then apply. So remember our formula. You got to learn new skills, you got to implement, and then you've got to repeat the process. So write down these things. Just take a minute and say, what are all the cool things that made you successful? Um, and then think about, the obstacles. You had to get through school, start a practice, and become someone who's highly talented. What did you have to do to get to the state that you are now? Because you all are amazing. Your life has so many experiences that are deep and rich, and you can share those with your patients. You can share that with your community. Get your YouTube. In the boot camp, I talked about how to create content. And so for those of you who are on this webinar, I see there's a few of you who need to be sending us your assignment by the end of the week. What is the topic of your content creation this week? So we're always learning, but write down those successful things. Here's what I had to do. First of all, I found the best mentors when I was in school. I had to, first of all, get accepted into my program. My teacher, Dr. Maekawa, to the far right, it took me nearly 2 months of begging before she would take me on as an apprentice. And you see her teacher, which is next. Oops. Okay, so let me get back to where we were. Can everyone hear me?
Sorry about that.
Not sure. Oh, are we good?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. So my teacher had to, she spent nearly 3 months learning from Daiichi Soromachi, her teacher. I mean, 3 months before he would teach her. And, so it's a real Japanese way of learning. But once I was able to get in that door with Dr. Maekawa, I was her very first student. I showed her my sincerity, I showed her my desire, and I decided to dig in and dig in deep, because the deeper you dig a well, the purer the water is. and I dug deep and I mastered Seitai Shimpo, and I actually became the first acupuncturist who was certified in Seitai Shimpo acupuncture. So I had to learn point location, diagnostics. I had to learn how to get out of my comfort zone. I had to learn how to locate the right points. And then, you can see me to the far left about 12, 13 years ago. And I'm holding the very first certificate given to an American in Seitai Shimpo, which was a much harder experience than me getting my degree, my Chinese medical training, my Oriental medicine degree, and acupuncture degree, and my NCCOM certification. This was much, much harder. This was hands-on training. And so I went through that. I know you've been through similar experiences. Once I got that degree, I got very busy once I set up my practice, but very busy did not mean effective. And so what I had to learn is I was getting good results with my patients. I was growing a practice, but I got to the point where I would go home and I was tired. I'd treat 6 to 8 patients a day, and I felt like, I'm doing good, and I was, getting by. It was fine. I had a baby at the time, my daughter Zoe, and my son Jonah was born about 2 years after I started practicing. But I had to learn efficiency in my treatments because I could only get myself so far. I mean, I could treat 30 to 40 patients a week, but I was getting very tired and burned out of that system. And so what I had to learn is how can I still get the same results but help more people? And so what I did is I started taking my appointments from 45 minutes, which, that's where I had almost a 6-month waiting list. And then I shortened my treatments to 30 minutes. And the first thing I did is I felt guilty. Um, I felt like, oh man, I'm shortchanging my patients. But the interesting thing about this experience is I actually found that my patients appreciated it more when I didn't have to spend as much one-on-one time with them. Because Seitai Shimpo is very hands-on, and it can take, some practitioners an hour and a half in the room, but I got very good at just spending, 15 minutes in the room and then retaining the needles. Or 20 minutes was about what it was, and then I'd retain the needles for a few minutes and go pull them. And then once I saw 30 minutes, I said, oh, this will solve my problem. I won't have such a huge waiting list. And then what happened is I shortened it to 30 minutes, and my waiting list, not only did it stay the same, but I grew. So I was actually able to treat 50 patients a week, almost 60. And I said, okay, well, I'm on this trend of learning. I want to learn how to grow a practice. I want to learn how to be more efficient with my time and my patients, and I want to make sure that I'm still adding the right value and providing the right result, because this is results-based medicine. And so what I did is I shortened my treatments to 20 minutes. And I thought, oh man, I'm going to have to, I'm going to hell for this one, whatever it was. But what I did is I actually, I found that I was able to get better results, and my waiting list did shrink to about 3 months, which was a relief. But at that point, that's where I had to start finding mentors, because now I was running really fast and running hard, and I was up to the point where I could treat about 100 to 120 patients every week. But I was still tired, but I was less tired than when I was treating 30 or 40 patients, so it was giving me renewed energy. But at the same time, I also started adding in more herbal medicine. So I started taking courses from Standard Process and taking all the Evergreen courses, anything I could get my hands on. I wanted to learn how I could deliver more herbs, more nutrition, more supplements. I'd always carried greens first from the very beginning of my practice. I learned how to close the back door. But in this process, I also had to learn more of a functional approach to understanding Chinese medicine and acupuncture. And so I learned spinal distortion. I talked about that. Learned how to not only locate the points, but needle them quicker. But part of my training is in learning the herbs and supplements is I had to learn what tongues correlated to Western disease, because when I was explaining the tongue diagnosis to my patients, what I found is, explaining something like qi deficiency, it would throw them off, because whenever there's a misunderstood word, people, they get confused, and then their mind stops and the creativity stops. And so what I had to do is learn, well, what does chi deficiency relate to from Western terms? And so I basically started piecing these concepts together, and it was very enlightening because I learned not only can you do that with the tongue diagnosis, with like yin deficiency, for example, or blood deficiency, or yang, or damp retention. But I also learned that with the pulse because I learned from Jimmy Chang, I learned from Bob Doan, I learned from other masters, their technique, but I also used my Western background because I've always had a huge affinity for Western medicine. That was the original medicine I wanted to practice, but I didn't like the treatments that it offered with drugs and surgery. So I started utilizing the pulse technique and finding endocrine disorders, issues with thyroid issues, adrenal fatigue, understanding how the pituitary and hypothalamus can be felt in the pulse. And so it was over a series of observation. Actually, I teamed up with a very talented kinesiologist, Dr. Corey Branham, and we were able to ascertain the pulse and muscle testing. So I was able to categorize different energetics of the pulse and using his skills in kinesiology to confirm what I was feeling. So able to build on this beautiful platform so that I understood how hormones worked and how to determine if someone had CMV, cytomegalovirus, or Lyme's, or other viral infections, or dysbiosis in the gut. And so learning more of a functional approach with the pulse. So I could go beyond just, liver, kidney, heart. Now that stuff's very powerful, the meridian therapy, but I realized I had to learn. So I've always tried to keep this ferocious appetite for learning new things. And then I started learning, well, I studied with Dr. Berg, and I started studying body types and how body types can manifest different. I learned how to read the tongue from the Western perspective, like I said. So here's a classic case of hypothyroidism. And usually when you see it on the liver area of the tongue, most of us would say, oh, this is spleen qi deficiency. But a lot of the spleen qi deficiency and liver qi stagnation, this can be wood overacting on earth, but from a Western perspective, I said, what does that really mean? What's going on in the body from terminology that I can use with my patients? And then that will also allow me to offer new treatment solutions for them. And then eventually get into labs, which I'll go into in a minute. So once I learned how to look at the tongue differently, I learned that there's different ways of perceiving what's going on with the body. So I learned how to communicate with my patients. Here's what hypothyroidism looks like, and here's what your tongue looks like. Are you losing hair? Are you constipated? Is the outer third of your eyebrow falling out? Do you have dry skin? Are your nails brittle? So I started learning these things, and my patients say, yes, yes, yes. And they would, once again, they would say, wow, Reagan knows more about my body just through observation than any other doctor that I've ever been to has. And all he had to do is look at my tongue, he had to listen to my pulse, and he could explain it in terms that I understood. Because a lot of us, we can listen to the pulse and look at the tongue, and we'll say, well, you've got spleen qi deficiency, you got turbid phlegm misting the heart, which is one of my favorite patterns of disharmony, and you've also got kidney yin deficiency. And so we'd tell that to a patient, and the patient would look at us cross-eyed, and it would be non-motivational for them. Because remember, we're not getting the patient healthy, they're getting themselves healthy. We work as a team. And so learning how to understand the tongue, learning what does candida look like, what does it mean? We've always looked at this as damp heat, and I had to take a step back and say, well, what does damp heat show up like in the body? And that's where you can have dysbiosis, you can have candida, you can have types of bacterial overgrowth or parasites. And once you can see it from the tongue, the patient can look at their own tongue and you can confirm everything that's going on. So not only can you just use like herbal ABX or V-statin for something like this, but then when you start, when I started looking at it, I said, wow, I can use L-glutamine, oregano, I can use probiotics with Saccharomyces boulardii and Spanish black radish. The world opened up to me because I had such a deep foundation in Chinese medicine, and also a deep foundation in learning. That's the biggest thing. then I realized, okay, I've got to take it to the next level. I'm going to start implementing labs into my practice because learning it can never end. And patients bring in labs, and I thought, well, this is interesting. But so about 4 or 5 years ago, I started researching different labs, and I really got into food sensitivity testing. I think with Alcat back in 2012, 2013, I mean, we were running about 200 tests every single month. I mean, it was huge. They loved us. But I started realizing, man, it made such a difference in my own life. So very first thing I do is I make myself the guinea pig. So I run my own labs. I find, wow, I have so many food sensitivities, and I could not believe the difference it made once I isolated those food sensitivities. So I said, man, acupuncture and herbs have gotten me, you know, pretty darn far in my health and Chinese medicine. But man, when I started adding in a lab to understand my foods, I just took my health to the next level. And I said, well, I bet I could do this with my patients. And so sure enough, I started running labs on my patients, and they were getting better faster. They were getting rid of their Hashimoto's disease. They were getting rid of their irritable bowel. I mean, I had a whole slew of patients that came from a GI doctor just because I took the time to educate my patients and run some labs on food sensitivities. And I had patients who were literally were having Crohn's disease reversed, diverticulitis, diverticulosis, ulcerative colitis, things that this gastrointestinal doctor in town had never before seen. And it was inspirational to me because I realized, wow, this is really powerful, and I'm only doing one or sometimes two labs. You know, I do micronutrient assessment, and I do food sensitivities. Now we don't even use Alcat. Sorry, Alcat, you guys are great, but we've found a much easier solution through doing a hair analysis. And I just actually we've done thousands. I mean, we have had months where we've done 500 hair analysis last year, maybe even this year too. I just haven't got the tallies yet, but hair will test for food intolerances, heavy metal testing. You can also look at micronutrient imbalances. So I looked at that and I said, wow, this is powerful. And then I kept digging into other labs. I started digging in, well, what about thyroid issues where it relates to autoimmunity? So not only was I looking at food sensitivities now, but I brought it to the next level and started looking at thyroid issues, thyroid antibodies, thyroid peroxidase antibodies, anti-thyroid globulin antibodies, TSH receptor antibodies. And I started understanding how those correlated with hypothyroidism because I would look at the trends in health and then I'd say, what do I need to learn the most about right now so that I can help Americans? And the most commonly prescribed medication, 2013, was Synthroid. So I put myself to work at understanding everything I could on thyroid issues. You know, I'd attend Genova Labs. I would do their events, Apex events, of course, Standard Process, Evergreen, and then I'd start teaching so that I could get my profession up to speed. And I've been doing webinars and courses for eLotus for let's see, I think the last 3 or 4 years. My newest one coming up is on stem cell therapy, which is, I'll get into that in just a minute. But if you can keep digging in and trust that, where you've gotten right now, what you've done in the past, you make your past bigger and more meaningful by going back into it and understanding the process that you went through. And what you'll see in this process of learning is you'll see that the very first thing you did was commit. So you committed to learning something new. I'm going to commit to getting a new skill set. I'm going to commit to showing up for the functional medicine boot camp in November so I can really dig into how I can get better results with my patients. And then in order for that commitment to be fulfilled, the next step is you have to have high levels of courage. So you have to believe in yourself. So you believe in yourself enough to where you say, this is going to help me. Nobody can do it for you. You have to do it yourself, but you do have to show up to the events. You have to read that book that you're interested in. And so then the next process is, as you're there, you're learning new abilities. So you're learning how to apply this into your day-to-day life. And so one of the things that you're going to have to learn is just run the test for your patient. You have to learn, first of all, how to communicate it, so your patient will actually let you run the test on them. Run the test, and then you figure out what the test means. And that may mean you're spending time on the phone with the lab, you are digging in and understanding what those labs mean so that you can explain it to your patient. But remember, just a little bit of knowledge goes a long ways. Like I said, I was reversing crazy autoimmune disease with Chinese herbs, acupuncture, and just by running a food sensitivity test. And it was not all inclusive, but I was building on what I was learning. Now I wish I had the knowledge right now, and I would go back in time 10 years and just do all these things at once, but I didn't know what to learn until I saw what was needed. So this is thyroid antibodies. I learned about leaky gut. I think a lot of you are hearing about this. This is a real thing. More and more people are having this, so you've got to understand what their zonulin looks like, their lipopolysaccharides. And we have lots of webinars on this, but you want to learn some of the basic things about neurotransmitter molecules, about how our brain functions. Learning all these things is incredibly fun because your brain lights up, and our brains are plastic. So the more that you learn, the more connections you start to make, and the more everything makes sense, because sometimes, frankly, you're going to get confused. And one of the things that I don't like to see is providers, those of you who are clients who reach out to us, when you're confused, that's when you stop asking the question. You feel that heavy energy. I mean, think about where you feel confusion and think about how that energy feels. But when you can get beyond that, that's where mentorship comes in, or that's where just having this desire to learn new things is key. And I found that me having my mentors has helped my brain grow so much faster and so much bigger, because I've learned these things. This would have taken me 50 years to learn, but I've brought on the right mentors. I've learned from the right people, and then I really commit to the process. And through that commitment, I have the courage that I'm going to learn new capabilities. And then as I learn those new capabilities, that's when my confidence shoots through the roof. And then I start the process over. I said, okay, we've got acupuncture down. Now we've got supplement or nutrition down. Now we've got herbal medicine down. Now we've got food sensitivity testing down. Now we've got heavy metals. Now micronutrients. Now we've got stool down. Now we've got adrenal function down, and thyroid and hormones. Now we've got neurotransmitters. Now we're working on genetics. And it doesn't stop. There's so many things that we're mastering all the time. I learned how to correct autoimmune disease. Last year I put together a 16-hour course on correcting autoimmunity, and it was so enlightening just learning that process and sharing it with others. Autoimmunity is a big thing that this is the future. We have less infectious diseases and more autoimmunity, so learning that. And then I learned how to implement all the 5 pillars of health and deliver that in a program that was very concise, in a program that patients could understand, because I was beating my head against the wall because I'd have patients who came in and they just wanted to focus on what they thought was important, which maybe somebody who comes in and they're overweight and they think all it is my hormones. And I'd say, well, no, it's more than just hormones. And I would explain to them there's your bacteria can influence your weight, the way that you exercise, your brain health, all these things. But they wanted to focus on hormones, so we'd run a few labs on hormones and we'd get them a little bit better. But what I had to really learn is that you can't just offer one service and expect to get a big result, because there's never just one cause. And so I wanted to learn how to implement all of these things. So once again, I started thinking outside the box. I started hiring mentors, and I got great ideas. And then we're able to put together a program that encompasses all of the treatments that are necessary, the acupuncture, rapid release, trigger point injections, stem cells even. And then I was also able to put in the other third of the program, which is classes and curriculum and education, because I found that was a key component. And then I was also able to start ordering the correct labs and tests and get people to the point where they would see from an objective perspective exactly what was going on with their health, and then they would get more motivated. Because remember, health is about how can you motivate people? How can you yourself stay engaged And I stay more engaged as I'm learning new things and as I see them as new tools. The heart and soul of your practice, the stuff that never changes, that is your wisdom, your intuition, your levels of connection, the energy you bring, your presence. All those things are very powerful and have to be in every interaction. But then you start building on that with these new tools. So, tools for digestive health. What do you need to do? Well, first of all, get the scoop on your own poop. Do it today and then send it to Kate. Kate, can you give everyone your address for your house and you
Yeah,
can tell them
that's
what's going on?
560 Aspen Drive in
No,
Park
no,
City,
whoa,
Utah.
whoa, 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 whoa. Wrong address. Does anyone have any questions so far? Okay, good. I can't really see I can't see if there's any questions coming up, but anyway,
No,
Cade will stop me.
I'll let you know. There hasn't been any questions, or I've taken care of most of the questions that have come up.
Okay, great. All right. Well, hopefully you guys are enjoying this process. I don't mean to talk about me the whole time. That's not my intention. My intention is to share with you in a way that hopefully you can start looking at your process. I don't care where you're at in your practice. If you're 1 year in, 2 years, if you're still in school, if some of you on here are, 30 years in practice, 40 years. And so hopefully this will help you think about, well, what's the next process? Because you always want to make your future much bigger and more fulfilling than your past. Most people get stuck in their practice, they get stuck in their life when they don't have a new game. They don't have something bigger that they're shooting for. And then you just try to perfect everything, every little thing that's going on in your practice right now, and you add more volume and you fine tune that, but you never think just a little bit bigger. So if you're confused, if you're like this lady in The Sound of Music, then you have stopped learning. So confusion is your biggest indicator that you're not learning something. You missed something along the way. You missed a step. And so that's where you have to go back into the past and you say, okay, what made me successful? What did I have to commit to? What did I have to have courage to start and jump into? And then what new skills did you have to learn and capabilities? And then how much confidence did you get through from that? But you go back and you say, okay, I'm confused right now. So that's where you say, well, what do I need to learn? And if you just simply ask yourself that question all the time, what did I do in the past? How did I get myself through school? Why did I want to go to school in the first place? How did I get that patient with fibromyalgia who'd been in bed for 25 years out of bed and living a functioning life? That was a miracle. How did I do that? Okay, now how can I do it again? Now how can I build on that? Because remember, health is getting harder. You can't treat health conditions the same way that you did 10 years ago. It just doesn't work. Even in the last 3 years, health is getting more complex. Our cases are getting harder to treat. Our environment's getting worse. Genetic mutations, especially with MTHFR, with all the folic acid we put in foods, I mean, we're seeing more and more prevalence of people born, like kids born with autism, for example. Or you're seeing people with higher levels of autoimmunity because you're not getting their methylation pathway supported. And then these genetic mutations are getting more and more common. So we've got to start digging in. And so the very first place, when you're confused, go back to what you need to learn. Don't just, grab a beer out of your fridge and kick back and have a few beers and just, I'm just stressed. I want to let it go. But really get yourself in a creative spot. Maybe instead of that beer, maybe sit down and meditate for 10 minutes and just really clear your mind and then ask you in your heart of heart, what do I need to learn? What is my next step? And you will have incredible answers, I promise. So here's when I was thinking differently. I asked myself, I was looking at my practice and I said, man, I love this. And I think we're getting great results with our patients. Our patients are engaged. Never at any point in my practice have I had as many testimonials where people want to give, just spontaneous. And I've never had as many hugs. I've never had as many patients give me that look like, thanks, Reagan, you saved my life, than I do now. And that's because I asked myself, I saw what some of my colleagues were doing, some of my friends, um, and they're doing other services. And I said, well, what are the services that I want to implement? What are the unique services that I can offer that my patients will love, my team will love it, and that it takes the burden off me? I know that people will get results. And so remember, Starbucks is not selling coffee, they're selling an experience. And so I wanted to create that experience for patients, but I wanted the experience to be based around learning and motivation. And I felt like the best way people can learn is by looking at their own numbers, their own labs, to see where their imbalances are in the first place. So I asked myself this. I said, I wonder what new services I can present in a wellness plan that my team can easily implement in the next 12 weeks. So the other thing, when you commit to a process, you have to have a timeline. If you don't have a timeline, you're going to stay, complacent. You're going to say, well, as soon as we get this done, life will be good. That's what I had to do with my book. I had to send myself to Hawaii and finish my book, and it was liberating. I did that last month, and I'm so happy I did it because I couldn't have done it any other way. I had to give myself a deadline. By the end of July, my book goes to the editor. Final editing will be done, and that proved to be very successful. So I should have a book ready by next month, or by, I'm waiting on my editor to get their deadline. So super exciting. But what can you implement in the next 12 weeks? Because you want to be thinking in quarters as you grow your practice. So I want you guys to take a minute and write down what services you can easily implement into an entire wellness program in 12 weeks. And maybe you're not charging separately for your cupping visits, for example. Maybe you're not charging separately for your nutritional consultations or your herbal consultations. And so maybe that's something that you could start with. Say, well, I'm going to start a new fee schedule for my patients, because I've seen a lot of people, they think, oh, if I raise my prices, everybody's going to run out the door. But actually, it's been, I've seen over the years, I mean, as I shorten my time, I also raised my fees. So I went from $60 for a 45-minute visit, and then I went to $70 for a 30-minute visit, and then I went 75 for a 20-minute visit, and then for a 15-minute visit, I went to $85. And every time I stayed booked out and still was busier. So don't worry about that. But then you have to add in these other fees for your overall service and then bundle it into a single fee. Okay, so what do we do next? Oh, excuse me. So now we want to bundle all those services together. So if you think of how could you bundle your services, one of the things that we'll train you on how to do is we train you on how to put in research, program design, consultation, lab reviews, functional medicine coaching, Chinese medical exams. We put everything into, there's a fee for that. And it's a program that is based on time. It's not based on a single service. So it's a results-based program, and it's powerful. And then we put in classes. So what classes do you want to teach? Well, I want to teach classes on nutrition. I want to teach classes on Qigong and meditation. I love my class on the 5 elements of emotional healing. That's a powerful class. And then we bundle these programs together and sell them. And this is hard for a lot of people to grasp, because for those of you who are in an insurance model, you can't just bundle everything together and say, well, I'm going to deliver 24 acupuncture treatments, and I'm going to do manual therapy 12 times, and I'm also going to use my heat lamp. So here's the codes, and here's how many times I'm going to do this. The total that you're going to pay me is $5,000 for this overall plan of care. The insurance company will laugh at you because the services have to be delivered. But when you're not working for the insurance companies and you're working for your patients, then you can bundle that entire process together and you sell it to your patient as a single fee. That makes the patient's life so much easier, because they don't have to worry about writing out a paycheck every time they come in. They don't have to worry about, oh man, what's Reagan going to recommend this time? It's like, no, we're going to put these into a single fee, and this single fee covers everything that's going to be needed. You'll have a bank for herbs, and maybe when you use up that bank, then we'll open a new bank for you. You can deposit more funds into that. We're going to have a bank for your classes. We're going to have one for your treatments. We're going to have one for your labs. We're going to have one for your research review, your program design. We're going to have one for everything that's going to be needed for you to get healthy. Now, if you ask me, this creates, it's a lot more sustainable because it creates a time period where the patient, whatever they put into the program, they will get out of. So the more effort they put into it, the more their time, the more that they follow your recommendations, the better they're going to start feeling, and the more committed they are to the process. So remember, the patients are going to go through the same thing you did. They're going to get committed because they've paid for something, and that is, that's what we all have to do. You can't get information for free. I spend over $100,000 every year learning new things and attending new seminars and hiring new coaches, and it's the best money ever spent because I look back at my return on investment. Not only am I happier as a person, but I also see my organization growing, and then I'm much more capable to share these insights with you guys and to create programs for other doctors, because my overall purpose is I want to change the way healthcare is delivered in America. I think we could be the healthiest country on the planet if we had the right tools and if we had enough practitioners working together to implement lifestyle medicine, functional medicine, acupuncture, oriental medicine, stem cell. Stem cell is huge service. That's one thing I learned 3 years ago. I first did it on myself. I learned how stem cells worked. I learned that amniotic and placental derived was the way to go for me. And it has paid dividends because I have gotten healthier than I ever imagined. And I've seen patients who were set up for surgery. They needed knee replacement, joint replacement, whatever it may be. And they do stem cell therapy and they do phenomenally well. So once again, these are services you bundle together. You look into the future. Into the future of medicine, what's going to happen is patients are going to come in with cyborg chips implanted. They're going to have smartphones. They're going to have smart toilets that upload all the data from their poo and their urine, and they're just going to come in and give you all the information. So my challenge to you is to get prepared for the future. 10 years from now, our patients are going to have everything they need on a smartphone. All we'll have to do is download an app for them, and they are going to know on a very day-to-day basis what the function is of their body. They'll swallow a nanosensor or chew it like gum, and that nanosensor will go all throughout their body, and then it will tell you in real time how their systems are functioning. I mean, think about the amazing opportunities that are out there. So this is going to be us, but we have to start where, the outline of this webinar today is get yourself committed to get better results and grow your practice. And so this is how you do it. So you say, well, how can we sell bundled programs? How can I do this? Because you're not working under insurance. Insurance suffocates evolution. They suffocate growth. It's very good for acute care. This is not acute care. This is preventative. This is also functional and regenerative medicine. So very first thing is hire Bruce Lee. He will train you on the art of influence. So we've got to learn the art of influence. And that's where the report of findings becomes key. You follow our 17-step report of findings. We went through that in the boot camp. I'll be training on this again at Einstein's Medicine in session 3 in LA. So come and learn the art of influence and how to first sell yourself on your programs, how to sell yourself on this new process, because you have to know from your heart of hearts that what you're delivering your patients adds the highest level of value you could possibly add. It helps the most amount of people, and it's very sustainable, and it adds to your bottom line. It's got to be profitable. So learn the art of influence. So I hope this has been inspiring for all of you. The learning process never stops. When you feel like you're not interested in something, start learning again and again and again. And I appreciate you guys being on this. Reach out to us, info@GoWellness, because what we want to do is train you on how to build a 7-figure practice, one that helps lots of patients, one that's a real business. It's not just a hobby or it's not just a personality business, but one that's really sustainable. Because ultimately you have two choices. You can keep doing things the same, or you can start doing things differently and really start to grow. So all you have to do to reach out to us is you can contact Cade, or you can contact myself. This is Reagan. find us at gowellness.com, hit the events page, and the events page will help you get registered for our upcoming events. For those of you who are clients, which several of you on this webinar are, you need to register right now so we can start getting prepared for you. And then email us at info@gowellness.com or give us a call at 470-231-9355. And don't forget to get your free ebook or complete 5-element training course at gowellness.com. So, Kate, anything you'd like to add before we end this session?
Um, Nothing specific. I guess biggest thing is if you're interested in attending one of the events that we have upcoming, yeah, you can get on the website. I'm also going to be launching a questionnaire right as we finish this up, and so I just ask, fill out that poll. If I'm just asking if you're interested in attending an upcoming event. You can put yes, no thanks, or maybe you'd like to speak to someone. And that'll give us a good gauge, and we can reach out to you if you'd like to have more one-on-one answers or questions answered and everything. So yeah, thank you very much for attending today. I'm going to launch that poll so you guys have the opportunity to answer that. So please, before you exit today, just fill out the poll for us, and then that'll give us an idea of if we need to reach out to you or not. Yeah, love you guys.
Cool. And last thing is, get in touch with us. For those of you, I know there's some of you who don't know about our program, so Kate and I are happy to answer any questions. So you can call us right away or fill out the poll, and we'll get in touch with you. All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you, everybody.